Good evening. This is Mary DeCourcy, Chair of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees, and I'm calling our meeting to order at 6:30 on Wednesday, October 5th, 2022. This is an open meeting of the Auburn Public Library Board of Trustees. It's being conducted in a hybrid model in order to allow members of the community to join us at Auburn Public Library, as well as to join us remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, which suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location due to the COVID-19 virus. The agenda that includes the link, the telephone number, and the access codes for this meeting was posted on the Auburn Town website on Monday, October 3rd, 2022. Permit me to confirm that members of this body and persons anticipated on the agenda are present. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Matt Toth.
Present.
Suzette Dowd.
Present.
John Danilowitz.
Present.
Vera Corain.
Present.
And I, the chair, is present. Town employees participating, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Jean Collins, Library Director.
Present.
Present, thank you. Please note that this meeting is being recorded by the Auburn Cable Television. We're moving to the second item on the agenda, which is to approve the minutes from September 14, 2022.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay.
I'd just like to comment, these are really good and thorough, John. Thank you.
Thank you, John. We appreciate that. All right, do we need to do a roll call, Matt?
Yeah.
I'm still, okay, sorry about that, still learning the job here. So if we could do a roll call for the approval of the minutes. We've heard from Suzette Dowd and Matt Toth has seconded. John? Vera? And I appreciate that too, I support, that's unanimous. If we could turn to item number 3, the director's report, Jean?
All right. So I thought I'd break this down into different sections. First, well, the facilities, we did clean the carpet again. I think this is the 3rd time in the children's room. The children's room gets used a tremendous amount. So we actually have all the big oval rugs cleaned as well. So that's kind of a new thing that's been built into the budget, which wasn't before. So again, it costs money, but we have to do that, and the windows as well. So we sort of folded that into ongoing. Parents recognize it. It's nice and clean. We did have to close it for actually 2 days this time because it took quite a while to dry, but that was all worth it. We do have decorations for outside. You probably noticed when you came in, and also some in the foyer now. Partial funding came from DPW, from the Parks Department for outside, because we don't really have a line item for any, decorations outside, which I usually use state aid. And the Friends also contributed, I think, $100 towards some decorations, so we also put those out. So thank you to the Friends for that. So programs, so a lot of this is about the summer reading program, so if you've had a chance to read this, but I'm going to go through it anyway since people might not have all of this in front of them. The summer reading program was a tremendous success and also a tremendous amount of work. I think we had about 100 more children than we've had in any previous ones. So it was, and you've got all the statistics in front of you, but there were 276 children who registered for the summer reading program. 201 of those are from Auburn, so we also still draw from other communities, from Worcester and Oxford mainly, but then a number of others, Cherry Valley, Leicester, Shrewsbury, Millbury, Dudley, Charlton, Grafton, and Sutton. The children read 50,027 minutes, which is a huge number. We do track all that. We count them all, and that came up to 833 hours. So good for them. We always congratulate them when they came in. It was really tremendous efforts on their part, and they were really excited about it too. We also coincided with putting a lot of new books out in the children's room, and taking away some of them. They're still good books, but they're looking worn, and you have to continuously sort of refresh the collection and make it look vibrant and newer graphics. Some books are still good, but the graphics are dated, so we take all that into consideration. So children actually came in 457 times to have their beads counted and their minutes counted, and get their incentives, which is beads and different things that they got for reading and reaching those milestones. One of the milestones was snacks with staff. So if they read at least 600 minutes, they got snacks with staff, which was a lot of fun. We set it up here. They had little hootsie cups and some goldfish. They actually had to take that home because the snack was taking too long. And then, so we did a story, and you know, we did a tour, so they got to go in the back and see where we work, which is fun for them because they know all of us, and they got to see like the mysterious place in the back where we work. And the parents were very excited about it too. It's so good, I want to see back there. So we also demonstrated the Ellison machine, which we use a lot because we use, you know, we have so many of those foam things and, you know, decorations and things for crafts. So we sort of built that in. So we cut the dragon, they got the dragon, and they also got the outlines so they could use it as a stencil. So they were really happy about getting the dragon. We had people demonstrate how we cover books. Covering books is really a skill that you think it's not as easy as wrapping a present. We're pretty particular about it. So we had some staff members demonstrate that, and also talk a little bit about cataloging and the thousands of labels that we have to type because we can't really do them on a computer, and all those things that take a lot of time to make it look nice out there, but there's an awful lot of work that goes on behind the scenes here. So they were very good. They were interested in it. It was great. We did a whole, you know, loop around and then went through the staff and then came back here. And then they did a little craft, which was a plant, and they made a reading stick, which is some really specialty beads on a stick. So they got that for actually reading. So they got that put out on the plant. So it worked out really nicely. The other ones were, so if they read 720 minutes, they got a summer reading program t-shirt. There's a picture up in here, and also we put it up on the digital TV with two of the children wearing the shirts. They were very excited about wearing them to school. And we have the same t-shirts that we wore over the summer, and we got a lot of compliments on them too. So it's a nice branding thing, and it's a nice we congratulate them for doing all that. And so it was great. So I think you've probably seen that I did put a lot of pictures. Everybody gave permission. There's kind of a lot in the newsletter, but I didn't want to ask permission and then not use the picture. So, and there's those other pictures here too for some of the summer reading programs. So we held 71 programs in I think just about 7 weeks, which is huge. But we were so happy that it's our one. You know, it's really the first summer to come back when we really could be open and not have to be too concerned about, you know, counting numbers and so forth and, you know, restrictions. So, and I said to the staff, you know, this is our opportunity. We have to welcome the community back. They have to know we're still here. We're waiting for all of you. And they definitely responded, so it was great. And I think, as I wrote in here somewhere, one of the most frequently heard comments is more programs, more programs, more programs, which is great, except the program budget isn't that big. So, so I'm working on that. I'll probably do a budget transfer or something because that's what people want. We have to serve the needs of the community. It's interesting that it used to be, you know, I don't know, 8-10 years ago, whatever, your circulation would drive programs. Now programs drive circulation. People come in for programs, and that's when they take out the books. So you've got to make sure that you're delivering what the people want, and that's what we want to do anyways. We really like doing the programs for them. So it requires, you know, kind of a lot of budgeting and, you know, planning, but I think that it's certainly well received by them. So our Museum Pass program, I think we're back up to 42. We're still by far the library with the most in the whole state. We were up to 48 or 9 before. Some of them no longer offer museum passes, but we're getting some new ones as well. We're also going to start partner passes. So like if somebody wanted to borrow the Sandwich Glass Museum, that's a little bit of a hike, but almost directly across the street is the Heritage Gardens, so they could borrow two, because usually the protocols, you can only borrow one pass at a time. We can't have them all out. So there's a couple others that off the top of my head I don't know. So we're looking at some partner passes that are far enough away that people maybe not want to go with just one. It's not a whole day event. So I think that would be good. I've been to both of those places and they're great. They're great. And actually the Sandwich Glass one is complimentary. They don't even charge us for the pass. And it's a full pass for patrons too. So new resources. So library card registration month was last month. We had a display in the foyer. We don't overly promote that because you have to be an Auburn resident to get a card in Auburn, and not everybody recognizes that, and not all libraries adhere to that guideline. You're supposed to get the card from the town that you live in. After that, you can use it anyway, but it's all tied up with your budgeting and everything. There are some things that we have that are only available for Auburn residents, and that's based on block, costs. So you have to go to the town where you live in. We have a lot of people who have grandfathered in because they used to give them to everybody, to a lot of people in Worcester and whatever. So we grandfathered them in even when they want to renew. But for new cards, so this is a good thing for the board to know. People ask, how do I get a card at the library? You live in Auburn, you just come here with some sort of mailing address or something, and we'll sign you up right then and there. But if you don't live in Auburn, you have to go to the other towns. So, and anybody has any, of course, they can come and see me. There are times when I can make an allowance for that. Every once in a while, there's an employee in the town who's always here, and so I would make, an executive decision about that. But basically, the rules are that you're supposed to get them. All libraries are supposed to do that, but they don't all follow the same guidelines. So we're in the process of having welcoming packets. We used to have them, and then, with the pandemic, we're kind of like rebuilding a lot of things. But the welcoming packet would have, the museum pass flyers and their cards and a whole lot of other information. And the children, when they come from the schools, they'll also get a welcoming packet like they did before, too.
Can you just ask someone? Would you see an issue of maybe having a note or something from the Board of Trustees included in the welcome packet?
What do you mean by an issue?
Well, I'm just saying,
you just want like a little card that says welcome from the
Well,
Board of
I'm just
Trustees?
thinking that one of the things that we could do, for example, is to include as part of the welcome packet a letter, from the chair, from the Board of Trustees, welcoming the patrons to the library as well. And then just informing them that, the library board meets X times a year and, you're welcome to participate and from time to time we
Okay,
may
sure.
seek your views. So just as another to supplement
Yeah.
what you're doing, to just give some visibility to
Sure.
the Board of Trustees for the
Okay.
patrons as
Yeah.
well.
How about for the friends of the library? You might as well get on that
Well,
bandwagon too.
the packets, I guess we can consider that, yeah. I
I mean,
wanted to
just
be
put in
careful
the
that I'm-
flyer, the
Yeah.
flyer that tells them what
Yeah.
our mission statement is.
Yeah,
and
okay, we
If
can,
they want
so
to.
that'll have to go through Linda, but
Yeah.
I think at the next meeting we'll
Okay.
discuss that. Would be
I have a question on the museum passes. I understand that saves thousands of dollars, but what is the cost of it? It'd be interesting to know what the cost is, and then how much it gets used, and how much it actually saves people.
okay. Before the pandemic, so it saved our patrons more than $30,000 a year. The cost to us was about $8,000. So it's
And that's a
clearly,
good return.
and that's part
Yeah.
of our appropriations that we're allowed to use for the state aid. So it's circulating materials, so that counts, and we have to spend $90,000 on that. Frankly, we don't need $90,000 worth of books. That's an absolute perfect way to spend some of those funds. So the last night, it was 35,000, somewhere in that vicinity. And I know that I calculated all of that and looked to see all the past, every single one is different. Some are full price and some we pay different ones, different amounts. But our cost was about 8,000 at that time. So it's clearly a good return on the investment. And it's certainly appreciated by patrons. So. Okay, so collaborating, I've been meeting at the senior center a couple of times. They wanted to start a book club and they weren't sure how to get started or how the library could help, so I met over there with them a couple of times. So they're kind of off and running. Small book club. We don't get the books for them like we do for the book club here. We can't do that for all the book clubs, but we show them how to get them and we can help them and do whatever. And doing the same thing at Mary D. Stone Complex. So that's just getting up and running. We just delivered the books over there. I said for the first 2 times we'd get them for them because they're kind of unsure how to get started. And we did that for the senior center too. So after that, once they know how to place holds, so we have tech services going over there to show them how to place holds, how to download Libby, how to use Libby in case they want an ebook. And so we're supporting them in all of those ways. I also provided them with quite a few suggestions because they didn't know where to get started. So I gave them some suggestions with, and they took those, and obviously they'll start, having their own suggestions and whatever. So they're kind of off and running, which is good. Bryn, Mawr, and Packagug, so this is exciting because it's been a couple of years since they've been able to come to the libraries. When they do come, so we've actually already scheduled that. That would be in November, and that's Family Literacy Month. So they will get book bags We used to give other drawstring bags, but they don't hold up very well, and kids really like book bags. So when they come here, they have to arrange buses and all that. When they come here, it's pretty, I wouldn't say crazy, it's just busy, because we got 2 classes in the children's room, 2 classes here at the same time. We've got to organize all that, and they need time to choose the books and listen to a story. So we're pretty coordinated with it, and at time, some of them are coming in this door and going out that door, and it works. They get their cards and they get their books. We have time for stories, and we do like energy release thing, and they also get a little tour of the children's room. Not everybody's ever been in the children's room. So we're really happy to be able to do that. That's all hands on deck on those days. Everybody needs to be here because we need everyone. So records to reading, it's very preliminary, but I will be having a discussion. I'm not sure how it's what we're going to end up doing, because I think they have space issues with the library at Bryn, Mawr, so maybe there's a way we can. So, and I don't know that school side, and I don't want to step on what they might be doing, but I've worked with them quite a bit, the reading specialists, so they're all open to having a discussion, so we'll see. We can't bring the library over there, but I'm sure there's a way we can be helpful. I do tentatively have a scheduled meeting with a parent who I had been speaking with about special needs groups for programs, and we can't have programs just for special needs, just like we can't have programs for people with, so there's a way around that. So it'll probably be some sort of advisory group with her and maybe some other parents, and we can see how we can support that. We don't restrict anybody can come, but there's a couple of ways that I don't want to speak, ahead of turn, because I'm not sure what we're going to go with it or not, or if she's interested in pursuing it. Definitely want to look at that. For technology, I guess this really doesn't, this is really a budget thing. I just sort of put it in because you're probably not aware of what the Meraki license does. Meraki is our software, our mesh software, which we were the second library to install mesh, which is before, you probably don't know this, before that, calls were dropped all day, every day. And since we put that in, it went to virtually 0. But that's a license and hardware renewal, so that's coming up for renewal. So that's, I think it's around $3,000 or $4,000, but obviously we're going to keep doing that. That also allows patrons to access Wi-Fi outside the building. And it's used quite a bit. I see people out there a lot. So, constant contact, I think, Suzette, you would remember probably that too. I just really started a couple years ago. We're up to over 700 households. And I've had fewer than a dozen people unsubscribe, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I also look at the click rate, because there's a dashboard that I can check that, and our click rate is twice what other libraries is. So people are looking at it. So that's good. That's really our main, we get a lot of, they look for the programs. That's what it's intended for. It's not a newsletter. It's not anything else. It's to send out the programs so they know right away when something's open for registration, so they can register. And this summer, with very few exceptions, our programs were full, and there were several times when we offered another one because we had so many people on the wait list. So if you're not on constant contact, you might just miss the boat, because by the time you hear it, all these things always get picked up by others. They say, oh, I saw it over here, and I don't post it there, it just gets picked up, but by then they probably missed it. And so they know. I know some people feel like they would like to get them sooner. I can tell you that we have that down to a science with that. The earlier you put them, people forget. You have to do it within 3 or 4 days, and that kind of depends on what the program is. And interestingly enough, a lot of times they're still registering last minute. So people, if they do it ahead of time, they tend to forget. You get a lot of no-shows. Our no-shows have dropped way, way down, because they know within a couple of days, I'll be able to go. So that's been, that's really the best way for us. And things like Bemis, those fill up in 20 minutes. So, so we kind of look at all of those a little bit, differently. Young scientists, so we have the STEM grant again, and the Cultural Council grants. I'm in the process of writing those, so hopefully we'll.
Did you get your money from the Cultural Council from last year?
Yes.
The Friends never got it, even though they told us we.
Well, I really just got it, like this week, so I think they're working through it.
Okay, good, because we have it scheduled, but we were gonna just.
Did she fill out the form?
Who?
Whoever?
Yeah.
You have to fill out the form for reimbursement.
Right.
You can see me after if you want, I'll make sure she's
Well,
she filled it out.
we haven't heard, we keep trying to make contact with the cultural commission and haven't got through.
Okay, maybe I can give you some.
There's been a little
tips and
turnover,
hints.
so
Yeah,
that's
I-
the issue.
And they're
yes,
working hard
yeah.
to catch up with it all,
Yeah.
but if you
All
want
right,
to talk
well,
later,
be
I can.
patient. That's
Yeah.
not till the end of
And I
November,
just-
so.
Yeah, I mean, I just got mine this week, so.
Mm.
Okay, good.
And that tends to be about the timing, right, Jane? Usually
Timing of
around,
what?
like around the fall is when you get them, the reimbursement, right? For the
Not
spring program?
necessarily, if
Okay.
you, that's when I tend to submit mine, but if you
Okay.
submit it right after you have the program, it's
Right.
really, it's
Okay.
better for them.
Mhm.
Oh, well, they're not gonna reimburse you until you have the program,
Yep,
Good.
yep, yeah,
that might be why.
That might be why.
yeah.
Okay, so I attended a conference last week. It was a long way to go. It was in Montana. But it was absolutely worth it. It was a design institute for libraries. So we're not building a new library, but that's not necessarily what the focus was of here. So a lot of the things that I had been thinking about were sort of affirmed that, that's what you want to do with, the movable furniture and keep things neutral. Just a lot of those really good tips. There were breakout sessions for how to, maximize everything. Nothing is just one purpose. Everything has to have 2 or 3. And so there were a lot of good tips there for the sunroom and, for the children's room when we get to that too. So it was absolutely worth it. It was, kind of a long way to go, but it was okay. And I met some, nice people. A lot of librarians that I don't usually have a chance to meet with my peers, so it was good. And the designers were great. If you've ever seen, you might want to look it up, in Missoula, Montana is where the conference was. It's a stunning library. It's glass all the way around. They actually have a telescope up because it's in the mountains. So they actually have this telescope up against the wall. And during elk season, you can stand there and watch the elk. Oh, I want to work here.
Great.
I'm attending another conference on the 22nd, which is a Saturday, but that's the way it goes. This is legal issues surrounding libraries. There's a lot of issues that libraries, you really have to be on top of them, how you write your policies, how you speak to your patrons. There's a lot about book banning. There's now a new trend for defunding libraries who are not moving books that people want. So I hope we don't ever go there, but at least I'll have an idea of how to, it's, the legal intricacies are pretty complicated. Did you want to say something?
No, I'm just thinking how really complicated that's got.
Yeah, really, very
I've
much
seen
so.
a lot of it in other states where they've really made a mess of libraries. And the libraries have to do it because their county commissioners force them to.
Yeah, the governance for all of them, it's
It's
different
very
from state
different.
to state. I mean, for us, even from town to town, it's very different. But there are some things that you want to have it on your radar. And I do read a lot about these, and hopefully we've been avoiding things we haven't really. But it can come, at the drop of a hat. You want to at least have an idea or have the resources. So I'm not necessarily thrilled about going there on a Saturday, but that's my job.
If I may, I thought I saw something last week where in a community, not in Massachusetts, the Board of Trustees had actually voted that to protect their library from any book banning policies, which apparently was an effective way to shield them from all of that. So that might be something to consider at some point.
Yeah, and then I think that would be, and all boards have different parts, in governance too. So I know that there was one, I don't remember where they all left because they couldn't win their case, and I don't remember even which side of it that was on. So it's pretty complicated, and that's not going to go away.
No.
So we want to make sure in personal space of patrons and restrictions, and even how you write your policies. So I'll probably bring our policies in case it's breakout stations and have somebody legal look at them. Although we did have our attorney look at them, but things change. So I want to make sure that we're up to speed with all that. I'm in the process of interviewing for a part-time staff member, hopefully by the end of October. It's really hard to find the time to even do it. The survey that I gave that to everybody for this survey, so I don't know if you have any questions about this. This was a summer reading program, the toddler one and one for children.
Well, first of all, what I'd like to say is I'm glad to see that those surveys, I don't remember that we've done anything like it. So I think I thought the questions were very good. I thought the idea of asking people for their feedback was very important. I thought the way the charts were developed were good. The only concern I have, and it has nothing to do with anything other than it'd be nice to see the numbers a little higher in responses. And I don't know how you easily get that. But the point is that this is really a good start to all this. I mean, I had questions about some of them, but I mean, it's really not important, because I think it's really a good attempt to get some important
It will
feedback.
make doing the strategic plan much easier if you have all that
Way
information.
easier.
Way easier.
Exactly what I was thinking.
So I
That's what I
think that,
thought.
and thank you for that, and I don't mind, if you have a question about it, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, no, it's nothing very important. But I'm really happy to see it, because I think it does make a difference.
When you consider, this was a targeted survey, so that's a little bit different than you just open up for, whoever you want to. Our patrons don't like to fill out surveys. They will talk to us all day, every day, and they do. And they will say, oh, here's what I want to say, could you write this down? And so, when they tell us, they just don't want to. And this is a targeted survey, and clearly they were happy. They had some valid suggestions, so we take a look at those.
I thought they were good.
And I think that we have to be careful how many surveys. At some point, I know that I've come across this before, it could be considered harassment if you're too much in their face. Like you go in a supermarket, not that we're a supermarket, but people want to go in, do what they need to do. They don't want to be stopped and they like us. They don't want to feel like they're saying no to us. So, you have to really be very sort of delicate about that. I wasn't unhappy with the numbers because I thought it really reflected what we hear. So, I know.
No, I wouldn't be unhappy. I think it's really a nice start. I didn't mean that I was unhappy with it. Did you try any QR codes in doing these? I
Oh,
was
sure,
wondering
we had
with
the
your
QR
telephones.
We had QR codes on them. Yep, we had, we don't do it at the circulation desk. That's almost a violation of why people come in. You can't just like put a survey in front of them. They come in to, the purpose there. And in fact, the circulation software is owned by Mawr, so you really can't get in the way of that. The purpose is to, do the transaction for their books and give them the receipt for the books, so you can't really get in the way of that. So we didn't do it there, but we did have them in a couple places in the library, right on the children's desk. We had 3, they could just easily take them. They were like bookmarks with the QR codes. Not very many people did. So I feel like, we got it out there without ramming it down their
When you say it
throats.
was targeted, how was it targeted?
Because it was for the people who came to the,
Yeah.
I don't want to ask people about the summer reading program if they didn't participate.
Right.
So when they came in, we mentioned it to all of them, and they were very, enthusiastic about it. They just don't want to use it. They feel like, I told you when I came in, and I'm good, or I told Jared, or I mentioned it to Molly, and that's really what they want to do. We're very much a community library, and they really like connections with us. And, there's nothing wrong with that either. So it's nice to have the numbers, but I feel like there was actually a lot of content in there, and so I feel like we got, a good solid handle on what they were thinking, and they weren't hesitant about putting in suggestions if they had them, and that's all fine.
I had just a question and a couple comments. First of all, I'm so excited about all of the partnerships with Mary D. Stone. I know Ginny over there, who's the manager, she's been very, very open and generous about collaborating. The senior center, and I was wondering, is that Liz LaFrancois? Was that a parent that was?
I can't say who's.
Okay.
No.
Well, she happens to be somebody who's incredibly influential within the special needs parent community in Auburn. And she founded Worcester Snow Squalls for kids with disabilities to teach them how to skate. She's the co-chair of the Auburn CPAC. So she's somebody that, if you want to get a pulse on the needs set of students with special needs, she's a wonderful, wonderful person. I just want to say that I'm excited about all of the collaboration. And then my question was, I'm really excited about all the pictures that you had included in the director's report. I wondered, since you have permission, is there an opportunity to kind of do sort of a slideshow through either the display in the front? They are, great.
I'm not gonna, again, it's
Push it out
balanced
there,
between
yeah.
programs and
Yeah.
books.
Yeah.
And not a lot of them. What you see is how many people are very reluctant,
Yep.
and I
Okay.
didn't twist anybody's arm. If anybody
Yeah.
seems a little hesitant, I totally because I would feel the same way. I don't want my child's picture anywhere.
Okay,
So there are some out on the digital screen.
hey, okay, great.
And those weren't in the director's report, they were in the newsletter, and I
Okay.
did get specific permission for the newsletter, and I
Great.
specifically told them this does not go on social media.
Okay,
At most, it would go in our newsletter, and we may put it up on the digital screen, and they were okay with that. Anything further, you know, we have to respect their, you know.
wishes.
I actually know a couple libraries who got in some trouble when some pictures ended up on Facebook, and the parents were not happy, so. Anyway, so they are up there, there's some up there.
Great,
Okay, Thursday evening hours, Matt, you had asked me for a little update on that, so we've been tracking that for the last 38 Thursdays. It's at 1.4 people average per hour, and that's people coming in by 8 p.m. There's hardly ever anybody here, so clearly that's not enough for us to expand the evening hours. I don't have a problem with keeping it on Thursday, so there's one evening that we're open till 8. But at this time, and I'm not, you know, we'll probably revisit again in the spring, I'm thinking at some point, when we do have the sunroom and the children's room expanded, we need to take a really bigger look of staffing, which involves budgeting. And, you know, at that point, when people are back, I think this winter those numbers are going to go back down again because it's dark and it's cold and, you know, then the flu's coming. And so, you know, it's not a good, it's just not valid at this time. So we do track it, we've been keeping an eye on it, but an average of 1.4 people per hour. So it's not
Starting at 5 or 6, or what time?
That's the 7 to 8
Or
hour.
17?
Yeah, I mean, up until 6, you know, that's fine, even up until 7. And after that, and we don't even get any phone calls. So it's not, there's
It's the only night that it's open till 8.
Yeah, and that's,
So
and there's
a lot of
nobody
people
coming in,
might be
so.
thinking it's not open.
Well, you know, we actually had some people come in and say, oh, you're open late, because Worcester Public closed at 5:30. So, you know, we're doing okay. We didn't even have to be in compliance, but we were. We were one of the few libraries that stayed open on Saturday all summer. A lot of them closed, which they do in the summer, we don't. So I think we're serving the needs well. If we saw a need for it, I'd be the first one to say, no, we serve the public, we need to take another look at this, but there just isn't that at this point. Maybe by next year, things will turn around again a little bit. So that's where we're at right now.
Hopefully.
Just a couple things that I mentioned, just because we have new people and maybe you're not aware of it, is we're the emergency site for Bryn, Mawr, and the high school. So if they have an emergency, the evacuation goes over to the Auburn library. So we can do that. So every year I sign. No, we're just for those two. I'm not sure where they go. Well,
Let's
if
just
it was,
close it.
It's close to
yeah,
the
well, I don't know. This has been in place since before I came here, so I just signed a contract every year. Every year.
Maybe
Which means I
goes
could
to
get
show.
calls to come in. It's fine. So I'm looking into, been talking to the fire department and the police department. It's been a couple of years since we've had emergency training, so we will probably, we have to close for the day when we do that, so we'll pick a time when it's convenient for them and when I have enough staff, because that's a very important that we keep up with that. And I'm looking at some other security measures, which I probably shouldn't discuss now, and I'm still in the early stages of doing that anyways. The ARIS report is attached. Well, I gave you any questions on the ARIS report?
No, I don't have any questions. Well, I had a few questions here and there, but I'm looking more for comparison with other libraries our size. Does the ARIS data, is it compiled anywhere the way a lot of data is on MBLC?
Well, not that, it's only into the locked software that the library directors enter into. And I have to say, I think that's the intention of it. But with COVID and everything is all over the place. And if you look at certain things, also, this is a pretty big concern, is people interpret the questions differently. So you might be looking at some data, and the hard numbers are okay, like salaries and so forth. But even that, you look at a salary for one town under one title, that person could have a different title under another town, and it might be a union position, it might not, it might be benefit, it might not, it might be 37 hours, it might be 40, it might be 35. So the idea is there to have that good comparison, but the reality is it's not a real solid comparison. If there's something in particular you wanted me to look at, I could probably try to find
I
something,
was
but,
especially interested in the, and I guess it gets back to strategic planning in the future, the whole section on the use of books and how many books we use and videos, all that.
yeah, that's all in there.
The library materials, that's really what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to look at
Right.
a comparison between us and other places with that.
Yeah, and that would be very highly dependent upon the size of your library,
Well, I was thinking the
Also-
size of the town. I
the
mean,
size of the
yeah,
town.
I don't know.
So that's an interesting point, because we're, I think, in Group E,
Hold it.
for us, which means we're compared with libraries up to 25,000,
Mhm.
towns of up to 25,000. So we have to kind of, if you're comparing us, but they have bigger staffs, bigger budgets, and, you know, bigger libraries, but yet the comparison is by group. So we're actually kind of on the, you know, the low end there in terms of, we only have a town of just under 17,000, I think, but we're in the same category as they are.
But they
So-
would show populations so that we could pick out some of those that were more like us. I'm asking that.
Yes.
So that could just be interesting,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah.
on the holdings and things like that. That's also helpful for the collection development
Yeah,
materials, the policy.
It's starting to be, as it should be, I think. It's not as much about how many books you have in the library anymore. It's what other services you're offering. And books, you're not counting physical books, but you're counting e-books, so that's a whole other category as well. And for us, we collect the box books. We have about 400 of them. They go out all the time, and hardly any other library. So that's, but they're more expensive. So if you look at that too, they're more expensive. So another library could have 800 books, maybe, or maybe not quite that many, for the same amount that we're spending. So it's really, you know, it's really hard to sort of, you know, get all that in balance and understand the big picture. And they're starting to look more, I think they need to look even deeper. I actually signed a petition to allow, right now you have to spend 15% of the total appropriated municipal income on circulating materials, and they won't allow programs under that. And a lot of us think that's wrong, because we need to be putting more in programs than ever before, and yet we have to have a separate line item for that. But you also still have to pay $90,000, use $90,000 for your circulating materials. So there's always, you know, it's definitely a little bit of a challenge sometimes.
Is there a way that you have to, the process that you ask for funds from the Friends, have they established anything so that
Yes, we have
when
the
you want some of these programs that you're talking about,
Yep.
you know, that you can get money from the Friends?
Yeah, I think, maybe I thought I put that on, yeah, I did, down further. So yes, there's a form now, so I complete the form. I did ask twice for $150 for the Lego program and $100 for the decorations, and they approved those. And then I'll submit the reimbursements, which I haven't done yet. So, yeah, there's, so Sin and Linda worked, and maybe Suzette also worked on the form. Yeah, so there is a process.
They have a few bucks now.
Mhm. Yeah, they seem to want to save it, so I don't know how much they're
We're
willing
waiting
to.
for big items.
So, ARIS report, anybody have? The title of this annual resource information survey, and that is the intention, is to get sort of benchmark, but it doesn't work as well as intended. Maybe in a few years when things have settled down, but right now it's comparing apples and oranges, it's really hard to do. So, but it's better than not doing it, so I'm all for it. It's just hard to, how to, you know, compare them, I guess. State aid report, well, in fact, Mary, while you're here, you can
Yeah.
sign the.
You got it, pass
the
it down.
sheet. I don't have it completely finished,
Okay.
I've got the questions this year, and this is everybody, people reporting differently. I'll give you an example of one of the new questions on the ARIS report that they didn't tell anybody about. How is your children's room used when you're not holding programs? What they were looking for, how many children are using puzzles, how many children are building blocks, how many children are sitting at the R computers, how many children, you can't count all that. You'd be harassing people if you stood there. Children have like, you know, a 10-second attention span. So I did the best I could. We're actually a little bit in a better place than some libraries because we don't use the people counter. We track how many children are coming in, how many adults, how many special needs groups, whatever. So I was able to sort of come up with a kind of a figure, and the children's room sometimes is very busy. You can't just go there with a clipboard and start writing down what everybody's doing. So I did come up with a number, but everybody was doing the same thing, trying to figure out how to calculate that. And I get that they're trying to see how the children's room is being used passively. But then they don't say, what's the number? Is it including the parent, are you including siblings, or you know? So it was, I definitely need some fine tuning on that question. So the same thing with the state aid. They've redefined some of the questions, and you know, I know from speaking to other directors, somebody interprets it this way, somebody interprets it this way. So you do the best you can, and at the end of the day, if you're in compliance with your numbers and you get your state aid, we will be in compliance. I just have to finish them. A couple of them are, you know, how many programs were videotaped, how many were live videotaped, how many were passive programs, how many were dual in library, and I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So we just do in person now. It's easier to count, but at the beginning of the year, we were still doing some of both. So it really, nobody enjoys doing those reports, let me just say. So just a little bit of update, I guess on the book sales is we're not doing any until spring. The last one they had was October 17th.
There are 2 donation days, Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, do you want to speak a little bit to the friends, Susan?
The last 2 times you can donate before the spring. A Friday afternoon and Saturday, I think it's 10 to 1.
Okay.
Friday, I think it's,
The 7th and Saturday the 8th?
yes.
Okay. What were the hours that you said for Friday?
I think it's on the Facebook page, but I
Okay.
think it's 4 to 6
Okay.
or 5 to 7.
Okay.
I'm going to a wedding, so I didn't pay attention. I knew I wasn't going.
Tomorrow?
And it's all on the, Sin updates it and sends it to me, and then we put it on the website. So it's all on the library website and the Friends tab. So anytime
And
something's
it's also
updated,
on
you put it there.
the public library of their own website.
Yeah.
That's listed.
Okay, great.
So the newsletter, which has not been disseminated yet from the town manager's office, which is a courtesy that I gave it to you early start section. Goals report I'm working on. As you can see, I've been a little busy, and it's there's a lot to go under those, and I want to make sure I get it right. I'll probably also be writing annual reports, so I want to make sure I'm compiling all that as thoroughly as possible. So hopefully, and I still have to meet with Julie with it, and we haven't had a chance to meet either. So hopefully by November, I hope to have that ready. And so anything.
And the bill schedule, this is just sort of, the only form that stuck out to me was the ACE temperature control. It's a big bill. What is that?
Oh, because one of the compressors on the rooftop went. Yeah, it was, we already had to pay the annual, which is good, because now we have a maintenance built in there, which never was, and that's why things were pretty bad. Of
Yeah.
course, so they come twice a year, and then, of course, they found an issue, so of course you have to fix it. So needless to say, the buildings and ground account is gonna need a little transfer. So, yeah, that's the thing.
Good, thank you.
So any other trustee questions or comments?
You mean on the item?
Yeah.
The only thing I wanted to say is, when I raised a question at the last meeting, I wasn't expecting that there was going to be an answer for that question, but I want to make sure, and that's why I think it's important that this is on here, that we can ask questions. We don't have to expect an answer at that meeting,
Right,
but a question ought to be able to be raised.
yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I did about the hours. So I just wanted to at least mention that. And then are you going to talk about collection policy next?
Well, yeah, I wanted to, go ahead,
Before
John,
we get there,
please.
just thanks, Jean, for the comprehensive report, and just to add the kudos on the summer reading program in particular,
Thank you.
and all the activities over the summer, and also just to second the positive feedback on the surveys.
Thank you.
So I thought that was great. And again, I think all of this is great information for us as the Board of Trustees, but also through us to the community. So so thanks to you.
Yeah,
So.
and thank you for saying yes, the staff has been great. I would point out something that maybe you're probably not aware of. Before I came here, there were 17 library staff members, and we're down to 11, and those aren't even aren't full. So we really, kudos to my staff, because we work. We're on our feet, we work hard, and we like what we're doing, and it's so nice that all of us know all of our patrons. And so we listen to them, and that helps us, serve what they need, but I appreciate the comment.
Kate, why the difference between 11 and 17? Is that a budget issue?
I have no idea where they put 17 people, to be perfectly honest. No, I don't think so. I'm not sure. I don't
Okay.
know. We don't need 17 people. We need more than we have. We need the right people. We need, and things have changed. There's, as you remember probably, when I came here, you said, we need some technology, because there really wasn't very much. Technology is a whole other skill set, so you have to build, so there's a lot more going on. It's very time consuming. So I don't know why that seems like a very big staff to me, but those were the numbers. Those were reported in the IRIS reports, so.
Yeah, and I was thinking in terms of the money that's available in the budget to be able to hire as many as you do need to be able to do programs. And if there's that kind of a difference, why would that have happened to the budget?
Yeah, it's not, the budget is approved for what I asked for.
Yeah.
So, and that's all laid out to, union step increases and all of that. So that's not, it's really not a budget issue. And at this point in time, for everybody, it's a, it's a workforce issue for a lot of places. And so we'll get there. I want to be careful too. So we're kind of like at a milestone, like where are we going now? We really have to do even more on programming. That's clearly what our patrons need. So you need the right people to do programming, you need different skill sets. So you don't need a lot of entry-level positions anymore. A lot of those things are going away. We could get our books come in already cataloged. I'm not going to do that because we have a wonderful cataloger, but at some point, and I don't want to put anybody out of a job, but we really have to, we need skill sets that are a little higher, and we want to see where we're going. We had great response this summer. We hope that continues. If it doesn't, then I don't need a lot of people who don't have anything to do. So you have to do that really with caution in mind, and really, having a good picture of where you're going and what what you can do. When we have our expansion, that will change the dynamics a lot. I'm really looking forward to the children's room. I know people want more programs in the children's room. You can't do that in the afternoon. Other children are in there playing with toys. You can't say you have to leave so we can have this program. And if you try and have a program and other people come in and they want to join the program, and you can't do that either because then you have too many, you don't have enough materials. So that really is, it's a nice problem to have, that we have too many people who want to join the programs, but so it's, it is a little bit tricky. So we have to, it's on my head all the time, how we make all this work. And I think we did make it work this summer. And we have to build some more late afternoons, 4 o'clock, when people can come. And we are thinking out, I don't think we need more hours on Saturday, but we do need to have some programs on Saturday for children, which we're ramping up for. It's not like I wasn't thinking about it. We have to catch our breath, first of all. And then in winter, do people even want to come out? So I'm always looking at that too, to see make sure the energies and the resources and the staffing are used in the best possible way.
Is there good attendance on Saturdays?
There was. We haven't had them for a while because we were closed, for a while. So, and in the summer, we don't focus as much on adult programs because it's really, the children's programs really, take precedence. But in the fall, so now we do have a lot of usually adult programs on Saturday mornings. Auburn's a sports town. We don't know where that's going to, we don't really know. Every library that, there were about 100 library directors at the conference I was at, and we have breakout sessions and everybody's, discussing big libraries and small. Every single one of them that I heard from is about half of where they were before the pandemic for patrons, and so are we. So when you think about it, we were at 71,000 people walking through our doors a year before the pandemic. We're about half that. So we can't build all the staff until the people come. And I don't think it's, we just need more space to have more people to come in. So it's all a juggling act.
I think a lot of people use a lot more rebooks now.
Sure,
Because of the pandemic.
Exactly.
Because
Which
I
is why-
switched over to only ebooks during the
Yeah.
pandemic, and I still.
You know, that's a good point, and people think that the other older people don't read. Oh, yes, they do.
Oh, yeah.
They decided they like it on the ebooks.
Right.
So, yeah.
You can change the
So-
size of the font,
Yeah.
that's the best
Yeah,
part.
pinch and expand.
Yeah, so you're not getting
Print
people
books.
in for books as much, so you've gotta get people in for programs. I mean, it's a whole flipped, it's
Yeah.
just flipped. So, and you have to make them, you have to offer good programs, you can't offer half-good programs, or, you know, sometimes they might be, you know, really well received and sometimes not, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad program, it's just, you know, appeal to a smaller population, but you still wanna get that balance. And there could be a sports game going on, or any number of things. So I sort of vet my presenters, outside presenters, very, very carefully. And have a good relationship with a lot of them, and they will actually give us a better price than some other libraries because we have the room set up for them. There's so many of them who go to other libraries and the room's dark, they have to set up their own tables. They're our guests, we want them to come and, you know, do a good job with our patrons.
They
and
wanna
and
come
do-
back.
Yeah, they wanna come back, right. So,
Thank you so much. So again, under trustee questions, comments, Auburn Public Library policies and procedures, collection policy.
You know, I went back to some of the materials that we had talked about a couple of years ago on policy development. And this really, and I also talked to some people down at MBLC. And what our handbook, our trustee handbook says is that collection development materials policies are the only category of policy mandated for public libraries by state law. Mass General Laws, Chapter 78, requires each library board of trustees to establish a written policy for the selection of library materials and the use of materials and facilities in accordance with standards adopted by the American Library Association. The law also, part of this law is that no employee shall be dismissed for the selection of library materials when the selection is made in good faith. And although the law only mandates that each library have a selection policy, a comprehensive collection development policy should address the following: scope and emphasis of the collection, responsibility for selection, collection maintenance, withdrawal and disposal of materials, donated materials, and reconsideration of materials. So what I'd like to do is, I'll just pass this out. This is, let me just put two of these together. This is from Mass Library System. There's all kinds of materials available out there about collection policy, and they're it's over here.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Oh, I didn't teach one of those. So this just talks about the collection development policy, so you can see it's not something we can take care of in one evening. And their collection development policies are, this is a guide from C.W. Mawr's, this probably has changed significantly since 2016, but these are recommendations for collection development policies. And then you have things like the Greenfield Library that's got about 3 or 4 pages, another library with just a couple pages, and then from Falmouth you've got page after page for collection development. And I don't know if anybody else is interested in this as a process to take a look at some of these materials before our November meeting, and then decide how to go ahead with this. I think one of the things that I would request is that the library staff at least set up some collection policy that sounds reasonable, that's a collection of a lot of these things that we already have. But we can do a little bit of that work ourselves ahead of time. And because I think it's good for us to be informed of that. It's one of the few things that even town council said that we're responsible for. And the other part of this that MBLC, Mawr, I believe is her name, said that library materials and collection development is everything that is used in the library. All the different, anything that gets circulated is part of the library collection. So it's not only limited to books, it's everything. And is there, Mary, through you, is there anybody else that's interested in this that we might
create a
I think
subcommittee,
if
do
there's
you think?
two of us, I
Yeah.
don't know that we have to, the subcommittee business is crazy to try to start posting all of that. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly, I think if you only have two people, it's not required. I'll check with the clerk,
Okay.
but I believe that's it. We went crazy during the, strategic planning, when we scheduled like 15 subcommittee meetings because, just in case.
Just in case.
And then we could cancel those,
Mm.
but you couldn't add them without the 2-day. But I'll check
Posted,
with her.
Yeah,
So I'm wondering through if anybody else is sort of interested in this.
I'd be
I'm
interested.
interested.
Yeah.
Can I ask, so is it the case that there's not currently a board-approved collection policy? So we would be creating one from scratch?
That's everything that I can see. That would be correct. There's something from probably 20 years ago, which is useless. But, you're in
Yeah.
you haven't seen anything new.
No, but I will say, I mean, I've written collection development policies. I mean, it's not easy because you can drill down and drill down and drill down.
Yeah, right.
So I will say CW Mars has a perfectly generic one that's a great way to start, and then you can work on it from there to sort of customize this library. I mean, you don't want to reinvent the wheel, there's
No.
a lot to it. And you don't have to include everything, sometimes you don't want to, then you get yourself locked into something. So they have a perfectly good one that's
This
pretty
is-
generic.
Is that from 2016?
I think it is the same one, I
Oh.
don't think they've
Okay.
updated it, but once you get it there, you know, you can tweak it, you leave it open enough so that you can get box books, and you're not like calling everything just print, because in fact, it's not
No.
catalog, it's print, it's an
No, it's
audio.
not.
So you kind of, you know.
The old one
all
wouldn't
that
have had
stuff,
ebooks in
so,
it.
yeah.
So, well, let me check with the town clerk to see what happens if we have three. If we have three of us that want to have a conversation about this, I think we can do it easily enough on Zoom
Right, I think so too.
and just find out about whether we have to post that or not.
So we could
That's
review what
Some of these-
exists and maybe come up with some questions or
That's
on
right.
our own,
Yeah,
and then discuss it.
right.
Right, but we're not moving anything forward, we're simply having the discussion and preparing for further discussion on it. Okay,
So we
very
could
good.
do that maybe at least twice
Yeah.
before our November meeting.
Okay,
But I'll do that tomorrow morning. I'll
Excellent.
roll that office.
I
thank
think
you.
that's a great idea.
I do too, I
And
agree.
thanks for
Yeah,
your work on this and the research.
Well,
appreciate
a
it.
lot of it happened a long time ago. I don't know what happened. I think what happened was the strategic plan.
Mhm. Speaking of the strategic plan,
Okay.
so we're looking at the APL strategic plan lessons learned section.
Yep.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I
Please.
did, I made copies of this tonight.
Okay,
'Cause it's much easier to have in hand to take a look at. I'm not sure, when I took a good look at this, I'm not sure that there's much here that is helpful for right now, but maybe in the year of planning for a strategic plan, there may be a lot of good information in there.
thank
Um,
That's okay.
Can we derive from this or from other information a proposed or a notional timeline for the next round
Yeah,
of
we could,
strategic plan?
that would be possible.
I mean, that might be something good to do to kind of put in, you know, black and white,
Yeah.
and then that it informs the work of whatever board will then have to take that on.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's probably the best that we can get out of this. I mean, no, there's a lot of good information, but for now, that's not helpful. It's helpful to the next time they try to do that. For process. So, I don't know whether you want to discuss that now, Mary, or you want to discuss it the next meeting or whatever, but
I think I guess, are there any salient pieces that you want to bring up, Matt? Or does the board want to just have a chance to review it and discuss it at the next
I
meeting?
think that's a better idea.
Okay. Are people in agreement with that? Okay, so why don't we do that? So I'll just keep it on the agenda for next meeting, which will be November 2nd, 6:30. here at the library. Okay,
Excuse
next,
me, can I?
yeah, sure.
Matt, did you write this? Did you compile this?
Oh, no, this
This
is
is
done,
from the,
Oh.
this is from the
Oh, I
strategic
was gonna give
plan.
you a.
Barbara,
Oh,
yeah.
no,
You're gonna
sorry.
be really impressed.
And I'm not good enough with
Barbara
the
helped
technology to do
yeah.
that.
Yeah, me.
Uh,
Yeah, so let's do that. Let's review this and we will discuss it at the next meeting in November. So the
Can I
next.
sorry, can I just ask,
Yeah,
just
please.
kind of makes me think,
Yeah.
in terms of kind of knowledge or information management, it's great that you have access to these documents, and that's the value of having board members who serve for multiple chores or, but I'm just wondering if there's ways for us to systematically kind of keep records of, or, you know, and kind of materials like this, and I don't know if, I know, Jean, you have other kind of town records kept in one of the rooms that you showed me, but I'm just wondering whether we should set, like, have something where we keep documents like
We've
this.
talked about that, we've talked about getting some kind of a file cabinet here to be able to keep that stuff, but, you know, in one way that would be helpful, another way, this really ought to be on a Board of Trustees website.
Right,
Some of these things were not really public documents,
Mhm.
so you'd have to decide how you'd be able to lock those,
mhm,
and to be able then to have the other things all available.
mhm.
I think everybody now has a copy of this strategic report.
Right.
Yeah.
I think this is probably the only other piece that was, that, the copies that Jean has here at the library, maybe, no, I think that copy there is as comprehensive as anything.
Mm.
Okay.
But you're talking about having sort of historical documents
Yeah.
that people can look at. I think the way to streamline that would be if we discuss things at a meeting, we approve it, and we want to post in some sort of digital format, and so that it's transparent. And then, and again, so we can collect over a period of time, documents, decisions, things like that, so that it's easily accessible if somebody wanted to look into it.
Can we, I wonder if our Board of Trustees section of the website, or do we have to do a Board of Trustees website itself, that we would have a password to get on?
Mm.
So maybe if others approve, maybe as clerk of the board, I can kind of take this on as a
Good.
project
That would be great.
and consult with others and kind of report back and look at what our options might be for kind of knowledge management going
Mhm.
forward
Mhm.
for, you know, board documents or other kind of documents of historical interest. And we can certainly do that prospectively going forward, and then we'll have to figure out how to figure out what's there in the past.
I would try, we also have had a trustees handbook, which comes straight from MBLC.
Right.
I don't know whether we have any extra copies. The only thing I could do is look maybe in the boiler room. There was one cart that we had at one time. I don't know if we have any more of these white folders.
Mm.
There were, I
We
have
haven't
looked,
looked.
I don't. So I think we had some more of the binders, but there wasn't anything in them, so we were using them. I mean, we could get you some more if that's what you
No,
want.
I wonder if you want
I'll
to give
give
that to
up I'll give all
John,
mine to John.
and then he's got it.
Yeah, because they were, I got you all the inserts and.
Yeah,
we have all
yeah.
all that.
Say, I just took them out of one big trunk and I have them in a cart.
Oh, well,
that-
Nan would
that's the
probably
kind
be
of
happy
thing.
to choose.
Right, Neil would probably be happy to give out cards.
Well, that's a good idea, and then Vera could have a copy too.
All right, so I'll take this on as a project, and I'll
Great.
report back.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you very much, John. We're gonna move to, item number 6, old and new business. Actually, I think that was intended, update on strategic plan, progress toward meeting goals. I think that was intended to be under, not a number, but under 6. Any comments or questions about updating, information about the strategic plan from Jean or anyone else that has a comment or a question?
I think what Jean was talking about, and I may be wrong in this, we were talking about strategic plan goals report that you're doing with,
Well, I'm writing it, that
Julie.
would be, because I report to Julie, so that would
Okay.
be Julie, and then after it would be decided to the board.
so that probably would work for that, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
yes.
I mean, that, unless there's some, I didn't mean to interrupt in case there was something else you were going to say.
And my intention is to have it ready by November. I
Oh,
don't
great.
want it to stay for,
Great.
because there's never enough time in the day, and it's, we kind of have to walk away from it a little bit,
Yeah.
because it's a lot.
Sure.
But we've accomplished a tremendous amount under those goals, and I want to make sure it reflects, what's been done, so.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it in 5 minutes without
Yeah.
jumping up for something, so.
Would it be possible to get that information like 48 hours before our next meeting on November 2nd?
If I
so
have
we
it
can-
ready, then
Okay.
yes.
And that way we can review it and then we can discuss it at the November 2nd meeting.
Yeah.
We don't have to
It'd be
waste
nice
time
to-
reading the whole thing.
Yeah,
It'd be nice
exactly.
to have that a couple days ahead. I was glad to have picked mine up early today,
Mhm.
and I was glad to have the time to be able to read it ahead of time.
Yeah. Oh, I would have to read it at a time because I'd have to digest it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be able to do that at a meeting. Okay, so very good. The next thing, community and public comment. We talked at the last meeting, it was something that I'm really interested in, just finding out from the public, questions or comments or just things that they want to share with the board. So we're including that moving forward. And the question of the month that we came up with last, but it's just being posted now, was, do you feel the availability of books through the Auburn Public Library meets your needs? If not, what sort of books would you like to see? I guess what I'd like to do, if we could keep this movement forward,
Same
if there's,
question?
not the same question, I was thinking actually if.
Well, did you get any feedback from that?
We
No.
just posted it.
Okay,
So-
so,
So,
Yeah.
well, I guess I'm completely off track with, I thought you were going to be doing that verbally as you were in the community and report on it this month.
Okay,
And then, so that's not posted because I would want to see that, just like with the Friends provide something, they send it in
Okay.
writing from the Friends through
Okay.
me and then it goes posted.
okay.
I mean, it's up to you how you want to do it. I thought you were going to be in the community asking those questions, that's what I
No.
thought.
Hmm.
So if it has to come through from the board meeting,
Mhm.
because you sent it in an email, but that was a directive that I didn't have.
Okay.
It just came from you in an email and
Right.
it wasn't, I didn't remember if the words were exactly what the board had said.
Okay.
You referred to another document that I couldn't even open, so I don't
Okay.
even know if that had anything to do with it or not. It was a Google, I have no idea what that was.
Oh,
I couldn't
Google
open
form,
it.
you mean?
I couldn't.
Yeah,
I
but
had
it was
trouble-
nothing- there was
I had
nothing-
trouble opening that too.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't, I
same.
didn't, did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
Did you open it?
I couldn't,
Oh.
I think I'm sure if I had saved it and reformatted it, I could have,
Yeah.
but I'm the least tech savvy person in this
We
room,
couldn't,
so.
I had my tech services person try to open it, and
Oh,
she
okay.
couldn't open it either, so.
Oh, good,
You're
good,
good.
excellent.
So, yeah, the question that we drafted, and it was on the minutes as well, I mean, what I really liked about it, it was sort of a collaborative effort. We came up with a question that we would really like to hear from the community. What we talked about was posting it on the Board of Trustees website, and I talked about posting it at Facebook, the two Facebook sites that we have. I just kind of prompted my memory. Ginny was very open over at the Mary D. Stone to anything that I wanted to have a question for the residents there. She said she'd be more than happy. So, yeah, I never intended to go out in the community and ask people, but rather post it and see if we could get some feedback at all, just like we did with the Google form. So I guess my question is, should we come up with a question for November? Your question was, should we just keep that
I
question?
say we haven't got any feedback on that
Okay.
one, stay with that one,
Okay.
and
Yeah, and we've already proved that question,
Okay,
in the minutes, and I think even
Yeah.
at last meeting.
yep, we did.
So if that could just come to me in a formal capacity,
Yeah.
maybe from you, John, or,
Okay.
and I think in that case you could send it to the whole board, so that I'm not writing it down and getting the words wrong or something. And I'm guessing you just want that, I don't know what you just want the question under the board site, which I can do. I don't know what else you.
I mean, it's exactly the way we drafted it.
How about, you do that with a QR code, so that people can take a picture of it and respond? I've gotten into that.
Yeah, that's very doable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that. But I guess the question was, do
Or
we,
is it
can we
convenient?
post it in the library? No?
Well, then it seems like it's coming from us, and so I think that we had to have a separate discussion about
Okay.
where we're gonna go with all that,
With the
because all of a
friends.
sudden if we're bombarding
Where was your last
people
question?
with, that's okay.
Where was the last question posted, the one that was up for forever?
that was Google form, and I posted that through both of the Auburn sites.
So why don't we do that?
Yeah, okay.
Because that drove a lot of response.
Okay.
And it seems like, you know, I mean, people here get stitchy, and besides,
Mm.
patrons coming in are gonna by default, if they like the staff around here, just the library is
Right,
great,
right,
you know?
right.
So, I think if we have something kind of broad-based that people can answer anonymously, we'll get.
Mhm.
I think to consider, you know, the other one, we have no idea who responded, or the
Mm.
age population, or if they were even Auburn residents.
Mm.
That was
That's,
one of my questions with the.
well, I have it all.
No,
You know
I
who
mean,
they were.
on that I forgot about, with the survey, just whether there were, you can't call them in a room boys and girls, because
Oh, I
they're
wouldn't
kids.
go there.
No, I mean splitting them up, boys and girls, whether they would respond differently to some of these activities, like them more or not, I don't know.
Mm.
I think that would potentially be problematic.
Yeah,
You know, we have people coming in, I can't tell if they're a girl or a boy,
No.
and it doesn't
I mean, you
matter.
can't ask
Right,
either.
right.
We're looking for, you know, age range, but not
Mm.
even
Yeah,
that
that's right.
so much, because you could be 5.
You would
but
have to
maybe
give
at
5
7,
choices.
You
No,
wouldn't do
forget
that.
it.
That
Okay.
could be potentially
Right.
problematic,
Yeah.
or almost
Right.
harassment, or just prejudicial,
Right, right.
so you have to be really careful where you go
Right.
with that.
but
The
the
town
response
is
to that.
fine, town
Yeah.
residents is fine,
Yeah,
How about
so,
at the Friends out there,
mhm.
there'd be a QR code
That's
with
easy,
a
Yeah.
it's
question,
easy,
and then they could just, anybody who
Right.
wants to, who comes to get a book,
right,
might be able to suggest something else
right,
than what's been available either in the library or through
mm,
the, I mean, that's simple.
right.
I like that.
But to answer Jean's comment, actually Beth Chamberlain helped me by giving the survey to students who are actually at the middle and high school level. So many of the answers were from the middle and high school.
right, so I think you have to know that,
Yeah.
which population
Yeah.
you're looking at.
Yeah.
But I
Okay.
really don't think a lot of high school students are dying to come on a Saturday,
Okay.
so. And, or are they, you know, like I said, I didn't know if they were even Auburn residents.
Okay,
We're open to everybody, but you
Right.
serve your community first, you
Right.
want to know what your community
Right.
thinks. So, you know, in that, as far as that goes, you kind of want to know which population you're hearing from.
right. Well, the
Yeah.
demographic, not necessarily, obviously, we don't get into gender, but the demographic group, like the interest group. One of the people that I reached out to, as I said, was the co-chair of the CPAC in Auburn, because I'm interested in the viewpoint of families with special needs kids, as well as the viewpoints of students with special needs. So, so to answer your question, yes, we can do that. So that is all that I have on the agenda for this evening,
Sorry,
unless,
can I just- so this
Yeah.
QR code, does that then send somebody to the Google form?
Every time I do that, it goes to Safari,
right,
and I have to answer.
But I'm just wondering though, I mean,
Where should it go?
it's not so much getting the question out, it's how do you collect the
You need a
data that
platform.
comes in?
Who's,
So that's what I'm wondering, so
Well-
if Mary was suggesting using the
Google form, yeah,
then presumably the QR code would
Right.
send somebody to a Google form? Is
right,
that how
that's
it works?
correct, that's
Okay.
correct. And it's anonymous,
I don't know.
unless, like you talked about, just identifying the group, so it could be demographics, it could be, we could even say parents, families, teens, whatever. I'll add something, at the Google form that we had, it was more involved, but one of the board members in our last team really thought it was too specific, so that's why we made it very basic, just to get questions out. But I too, I agree with Jean, I felt like, unless you're identifying which demographic group that we're hitting, and I know I'm very interested again in families with special needs kids, elderly people, and people special pops that might not feel that they're represented in our literature, so yes, I would
Well-
want to be able to know.
in a way, the titles that they request would give us some hint about that,
Right,
I think.
right.
You can't exclude the other groups.
No,
Yeah,
no,
I just
but,
want to be careful that it's not exclusionary
No, no,
for
it's
other,
not
because we serve everybody,
right,
as you can see, our
right.
DEI is like,
I
we're
hear
everybody,
you.
so just want to be careful. And I would also say too, I don't know who's designing the form or the whatever, to make absolutely sure it says Board of Trustees.
Yes.
Because people are going to think that it's from the library.
Right.
You know, we just did ours, and so
Right.
this is from you. And if the Friends, and I think that you probably have to weigh that with your Friends group to see if theirs is it.
I mean, one thing I like about the broad, thanks, bad manners. One thing I like about the broad nature of the question is we don't know what we're gonna get. We don't,
Right.
it could be
Right.
special needs,
Right.
kids feel represented,
Mm.
it could be somebody really badly wants more romance novels.
Right, I totally agree.
Yeah.
But
so-
we know historically people are underrepresented, so I think in my, you know, background, what I do for a living, I really care about hearing from everyone, and we do typically hear from certain demographic groups that feel very empowered. So I would just want to be able to reach out to groups who we are interested in making sure that we're including. That's all.
It's almost a separate survey, Mary.
Right.
It's really, I mean, if you're wanting, it's a different context. I mean, if you're reaching out because you want to know about books, it's
Mhm.
not about, do you want books about special, you know, that.
Unless that's what you
Yeah,
answer.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
so
not- yeah, but
what's
that-
the question? If you're
Yeah.
looking for something
Yeah.
else, it's not a good question because you
Right.
have to,
Right.
you can't ask the question based on, you only want certain people to answer it, you really want to hear from them.
But I
You
didn't
have to
say
hear
that.
from
I mean, the
everyone.
question
No, but
is, the question is right here. Do you feel the availability of books through the Auburn Public Library meets your needs? If not, what I stated, and it wasn't changing the question, it was making sure that we're including groups who may not be traditionally included. That's what I was
Mary,
referring to.
who in Auburn, I don't know if it's Auburn Youth Services or who, is there anybody that actually works with special needs kids in the community? I don't know whether the school, what the department in school,
Special ed department.
whether
Yes,
that
the-
department,
yeah.
in some way,
Right.
if there's a way, an opportunity
Right,
to, in the same way we might meet with people from Mary D, that there
Right.
might be a way for someone to be able to, I don't mean us,
no.
but somebody to meet with those
Right.
groups of people
Mhm.
to get some information.
Yeah, I guess that's what I was
And
suggesting.
it's not that the library doesn't do it, it's
Yeah.
what might the library be able to do to encourage
Right.
that use, that's all.
Right, and when I referenced early Ginny from Mary D, she was very open to me bringing the Google Forms for some people that didn't use the internet. So when I'm talking about traditionally, like making sure that we have access for people who might not be digitally inclined to answer a survey. So again, I just want to be very clear about that. So do we have anything else before we move to adjourn? Our next meeting will be Wednesday, November 2nd, 2022 at 6:30. Anybody have anything before we adjourn?
I make a motion.
All right, does anybody second that motion?
Okay.
All right, just go through roll call anyway. So Matt gives the
Yes.
first, Suzette gives second, John,
Agree.
you adjourn, Vera,
Agreed.
and of course I agree. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Very good.